Hey guys, Problem1701 here, and today we're going to be talking about Orphan 55 from Series 11 of Doctor Who. Now, I got the idea for this video because of a conversation we had in the comments recently. A very good conversation, very respectful conversation. Nobody was being rude. It was, my comment section, at least at this point, seems to run really well. People are very understanding, but people were just expressing different points of view on Orphan 55. Nobody was saying it was good. It was, I think, what was mainly being discussed was the level of bad that it is, and just being in the conversation, reading the conversation seemed like a good idea for a video. There's one person who seemed very certain that it could be like the worst episode of Doctor Who ever, and a lot of us were like, we're not saying it's good, we're just saying there's worse. And I agree. I think Orphan 55 is a really bad episode. I don't think it's good. But I think there are worse. I think there are worse episodes of Fear Her, I think is worse. The Idiot's Lantern, I think is worse. Power of Kroll, I think is worse. The Gunfighters, I think is worse. Timeless Children, I think is worse. There are a lot of worse episodes of Doctor Who. But Orphan 55 is one of those bad stories that I think has good things in it. There are moments I liked of Orphan 55. The problem was that the good moments really didn't outweigh the bad moments. So today we're going to be looking at the good, the bad, and the stupid of Orphan 55. And we're going to start with the good and go through those. I have about 6 things on my list, but 2 of them really. There's really 2 of them that I really enjoyed about the episode. And we'll start with one of those. The first one, and we're going to get right into spoilers. If you haven't seen Orphan 55, stop now, skip ahead a ways, because we're going to discuss spoilers right now. Of course, Orphan 55 is the name of the planet they're on, the whole story, and we find out at the end of the story it's Earth, or at least one potential future for Earth, which has been ravaged, and that the creatures they've been fighting are what's left of humanity that didn't leave. And I did not see that coming. I am going to give Orphan 55 credit. I did not see that twist. As much as that is overdone, as much as that is tropey at this point, we've already seen it in Doctor Who itself with The Mysterious Planet, which is a Robert Holmes story with the 6th Doctor that I'm quite fond of. But I didn't see it coming here, so I got to applaud that and give credit for that. When it's revealed they're on Earth, I was like, didn't see that, did not read that. Very Beneath the Planet of the Apes, the way they do it. Yes, the second movie. Much like in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, when I believe they were in one of the subways, like one of the New York subways, and they saw the lettering, realized they were on Earth. That's really well done, and I will give props to that because it caught me completely off guard. A couple other things. The big one we'll save to the end that I really liked. I like the outside of Orphan 55 when they're out like on the planet, that kind of grayish, demolished, desolate. I thought that worked really well. I really enjoyed that. The planet just looks like somewhere you wouldn't want to go, lifeless. And I thought it was realized really well. I thought the creatures at the beginning, when they're just in shadows and you're not really seeing them, they're just you just see people getting pulled away. I thought that part was done really well. We'll talk about the creatures more later. But just right there at the beginning of the story, when you didn't really see them much, and you just saw people kind of getting dragged into the shadows, I actually thought that was executed really well and really helped build tension for the beginning of the story. I liked that. I did like that line where she goes, "Oh, and she named me Trixabelle." I don't like the mother-daughter thing overall, but I did like the way the actress does that line of, "Oh yeah, and she named me Trixabelle." Just that annoyed way she says it. I did actually like that. I do love when Trixabelle and Ryan, when they're in the vehicle and they're kind of having a moment, or they're kind of starting to have a moment, and the Doctor just cluelessly butts in. Because that seems very much like a Doctor thing to do. Not all the Doctors, some more than others, but when she kind of butts in, and I think she actually... It's been a long time since I watched the story, because I'm going to be honest, I didn't rewatch the story for this video. Some videos I'll do that for y'all. Orphan 55, I will not. Aside from one scene, we'll get back to that. But I think she actually does physically go over and get between them. I forget exactly. That's a very Doctor thing to do, because the Doctor doesn't always pick up on, that kind of thing, that they're having a moment. Graham and Yaz catch on, of course. But the doctor being oblivious to that is very doctor. So I will admit that at that point, the doctor really does kind of feel like the doctor for that moment, because I can just see the doctor doing that and not catching on. She's interrupting. So I will give a little bit of props for that. There is one other moment that I really enjoyed in this story that really I absolutely can say I really loved. It's when toward the very end, when they're holding the thing up to try to keep the things out, and they realize they can't keep them out, and the 13th Doctor goes, "When I say run, run. Run!" Not gonna lie, when I saw that, it put a smile on my face. It really, like I am right now, I know I'm smiling. It really was a wonderful moment I enjoyed. Because it's one of those things where people the newer fans who only watch the modern series, they're not going to get it. But it's not going to be, they're going to be oblivious to the fact they're not going to get it because it just seems like a normal little scene. But for those of us, especially like a lot of you who watch my channel, you already probably know exactly why that put a smile on my face. Not the first time I've heard the Doctor say those words. And I am a big, big Patrick Troughton fan. I love the second Doctor. He's one of my favorite Doctors. And that's one of the things, he's known for saying. Especially right after that, when I say run, run, run! Right after he says the when I say run, there's like a short pause, run! And it had to have been done on purpose. I don't believe that's a coincidence. I do think that that's something that was put in there as a very subtle nod to the second Doctor and to Troughton. Especially since, 2020 was his 100th anniversary. And this did air in 2020. So that was probably purposely a nice little nod for his centennial. And I do love that moment in this episode. It's not a good episode, but that's just thinking about that moment does put a smile on my face. And I love how subtle it is. Again, modern Who fans wouldn't even know they missed something, but the rest of us, we can have that small little smile to ourselves and know that the show was giving a nice nod to its past. Let's move into the bad. The creatures look dumb in full view. I don't think it's a good creature design. I don't think it's necessarily as bad as some people make out. I don't think it's utter garbage. But I don't think it's a good design. I don't really care for it. It doesn't do a lot for me. Number 2 on the list. Benny and his wife. And I don't know his wife's name. I can't tell you most of the people in the story's name. I know Benny's name because it gets said a lot. Benny! Benny, where's my Benny? Benny, Benny. Yeah, I never forget Benny's name. I don't know hardly anyone else in the story's name. I know Benny's name. God, but part of it, like one thing is, why do they even take Benny? Why don't they just kill him there? Why do they carry him with him? This part here actually probably goes in the stupid category. They're pretty much killing everybody else. They just happen to pick him to carry off until later. The whole thing about the marry me, now shoot me. Let's get past all of this already. And then when it finally got to the part when she died, I'm like, why couldn't this have happened like 15 or 20 minutes ago? Somebody in the comments when we were talking about Orphan 55 said the same thing, but I assure you, when I was watching the story, I was thinking the same thing. God, she's in the story a lot longer than she needs to be. It doesn't add anything to the story. It just slows the story down and makes it uninteresting. I guess you have to have Benny in it because it gives them the excuse to go out in the tank thing. But other than that, Benny and the wife, not a good part of the story. Number 3 is the dad and the son with the green hair. I just straight up forgot they were in this story. Like when I was reading the comments and they started talking about the kid and the dad with the green hair, I was like, what are they talking about? Like I literally completely forgot about them. I had to stop and think about it and be like, oh yeah, because the kid's good at fixing things. And okay, like I completely forgot them in the story. That tells you, I guess, how important they are to the story. Not quite sure why they had to have green hair, but all right. Number 4, John Candy and Spaceballs. Yeah, the squirrel girl or whatever she's supposed to be. I always think of John Candy as barfing Spaceballs. It looks like that's We'll be generous and call it an homage to John Candy in Spaceballs. Yeah, I didn't like it. Didn't care for it. When she got killed off, I was like, all right, whatever. The mom and daughter, first off, didn't really care for them. Nothing against the actresses. Just didn't really care for them in the story. Also, do they die? Do they die? I don't know. You know why I don't know? Because the doctor didn't go back to check or to go back to save them. That we saw on screen at least. No, she was too busy giving her speeches and preaching. Well, I can either go back and make sure they're safe, or I can give them a lecture. I'm the doctor. What should I do? Well, if you're the 13th Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, you go, lecture, baby. So, but to be fair to the 13th Doctor, she's not the first one to neglect people this way. The 11th Doctor had a knack for this as well. Like, the last time we saw Vincent Van Gogh, he was upset because he had painted a picture of the TARDIS exploding. He was very upset about it because he figured his friend that showed him all these wonderful things was dying. And Amy, too, who he very much could have possibly have fallen in love with, dying. And we don't know if he ever found out everything was okay, because we don't know if the 11th Doctor ever went back to say, hey, Vincent, just wanted to let you know we're okay. Want to pop into the future with us? We don't know if he actually did that. Vincent might have thought they died like that. His friend and the woman he possibly loved just died. I don't know how Vincent would live with himself. Oh, yeah, right. And also, when Amy and Rory disappeared, who told Rory's dad? Yes, I know about the little thing that they were going to do but didn't do. They didn't do it, so it doesn't count. So we don't know whatever happened to his dad. Did his dad ever find out? Did his dad get super depressed? Did his dad go, what did Vincent do in this situation? We don't know. We don't know what would happen. It never so, especially after he gives that big speech to Rory's dad about not them, they'll always save. Some do this, some leave me, some die. Not them, never them. All we know is Rory's dad was probably like, man, let me go visit my son. He's been gone an awfully long time. I'm sure he'll be back any minute now. Any minute now. We don't know if Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor, ever went back and said, oh, hey, okay, good news, bad news time. Okay, I lied. Bad news time. Don't know. So Jodie Whittaker's not the first one to do this, but still we don't know if she ever actually went back to save them or if they survived. Seems kind of an odd way to leave the episode there. Let's get into the stupid part. Stupid part. The nano worm or whatever this thing is that can go in machinery and people. Huh? What? Okay, whatever. And then the whole thumb sucking thing, I guess it's supposed to be something for them to have their initial bond over. Thumb sucking? There was much cringe. Yes, I did. Nope. Another one. This is a really big one. When the doctor, runs into the sleeping thing that's apparently a heavy sleeper. It just sleeps standing up. She's like, I'll just touch it. Not that that's plot convenience or anything. She puts her hand on it and she sees that little montage of how the apocalypse happened. Here's my issue. That apocalypse looks very modern day. It doesn't look like 26th century apocalypse. Because, we all know from classic and modern Who, there are points in Earth's history where it's uninhabitable and people leave on the various arcs. We see that in the arc in space and stuff with like Nerva Beacon. We also see that, in The Beast Below. So we know there are times when nobody's living on Earth because it's not habitable. And, we've all gone to space in different various arcs. So you could have set Orphan 55 somewhere in that timeline, like something like that. 26th century, 27th century, 28th century, whatever. But when she actually does the thing and you're seeing that montage play out, it doesn't look like it happened in the 26th century. It looks like it happened next week. Let's see, mark calendar. Next week, die in apocalyptic fallout, or possibly turn into mutant creature. Well, got my calendar done for the whole month. I don't like the fact that it's not a futuristic montage, that it's like a modern day montage. Which, I don't know, maybe that's the story's way of trying to browbeat into me. global warming, bad, bad, bad. It's not going to happen 100 years, it's going to happen tomorrow, bad. Which brings me to my final complaint under stupid. And the one y'all know is coming, the final speech, which is literally this is what I like to call bayoneting the survivors. In case anyone had held on, which I was at this point, going into this speech, I wasn't fully convinced it was a bad episode. It wasn't a good episode, but I wasn't ready to just crap all over it. And then the doctor preaching quite literally to the audience, so it seems. And the way the camera angle works, when she's, and you can do this, you can do this, you can save humanity, or, and then it cuts to the creature, which is so on the nose, and it's almost a caricature of a speech when it cuts to the creature and it's like, and then you hear the Doctor Who theme music, and I'm just like, wow. They really went there. Wow. Because I guess they don't realize their audience can think, which considering some of these people who rave about the Chibnall era probably can't think. But, yeah, that speech is just the way it's handled. Because it very much doesn't feel like the Doctor's talking to Ryan and Yaz and Graham. It just feels like the way the camera work is done, the way she talks, like she's preaching to us. And they didn't even have to have the cutaway. She could have just ended the speech and it ended the episode, but they just had to cut to the eye-rolling image of the creature. It fails. It's like they're trying to beat you over the head to make the point. Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? Hey, global warming is bad. 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 That's the point we're trying to make. Did you get global warming is bad? Is it now? Really? Global warming is bad? Thank God you're here to tell me these things. How would I have known? It's like they don't understand how subtle works. You understand subtle? Go watch The Green Death and Doctor Who and the Silurians. That's the thing the person who wrote Orphan 55 needs to do. That's their homework. Like, I don't use Facebook or Twitter because they're way too toxic, but find out who wrote that episode, find out their Facebook, find out their Twitter, send them a link to this video so they can watch it. This is their homework. Go watch The Green Death from the classic Doctor Who, and go watch Doctor Who and the Silurians from classic Doctor Who. Both John Pertwee, Third Doctor stories. Now, let me be clear. I know some of you are thinking, the Green Death's prowl isn't exactly subtle. I'm not saying the Green Death is subtle. The Green Death isn't necessarily subtle. But compared to what's going on in Orphan 55, the Green Death is a freaking ninja. It's so subtle. And I definitely do think Doctor Who and the Silurians is very subtle. And its final speech at the end of its story works beautifully. It makes the whole story for me. Like when people ask me, what's better, Doctor Who and the Silurians or the Sea Devils? Hard for me to choose because the Sea Devils has the better story overall, but that ending of Silurians is so good. I bump it up over Sea Devils. When the Doctor and Liz are talking and he sees the Brigadier blow up that entrance, the way they shoot that scene, because John's not quite looking at the camera, he's looking off kind of to the side like this, so you know he's talking to Liz, not to the camera, and Liz is kind of talking like this. They cheat, what we in theater call, they cheat slightly. And there's a lot in where their eyes are. You get they're talking to each other, not to the camera. It's very well filmed, plus the fact that Caroline John and John Pertwee are just phenomenal actors who sell it. And that's the exact problem with the speech at the end of this one, is not only do we have Jodie Whittaker practically doing this to the camera, preaching right at us, looking practically right at it, it has to do that cheap little cutaway to the monster. And it's awful. So yes, Orphan 55 is awful. It is not the worst episode of Doctor Who. It is not the worst episode of modern Doctor Who. It's not even the worst episode of Series 12. That's Timeless Children for a lot of reasons I've already discussed. I do find Orphan 55 rewatchable, barely, and I haven't actually rewatched it, but I can see myself eventually going back to it. Unlike some episodes like Fear Her, which I never want to watch again, or Power of Kroll, or Kill the Moon, or Oxygen, which I never want to watch again, ever. So that has been my heartfelt thoughts on Orphan 55, the good, the bad, and the stupid. I kind of like this. I can make a series out of the good, the bad, and the stupid. If y'all want to see more of those, let me know. Other things to do, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications. Let me know what you think of Orphan 55 and my thoughts on Orphan 55 and this video down in the comments below. I always enjoy finding out what you think. I do have a Patreon as well. If you would like to become one of my patrons, there is a link to that down in the description as well. My entry level tier is only $2 a month. I do have other tier levels, $5, $15, $10, $20, whatever you feel comfortable with donating. And there are different rewards for each tier as well. Most importantly, stay safe out there, and thank you for watching.